Hey, are you a business owner, entrepreneur, or professional? If so, we want you to apply to be a featured guest on our show. My name is Adam Torres, and I host the Mission Matters series of podcasts. I've recorded over 3,000 episodes, and we are just getting started. How do you know if you'd be a good guest to be on the show? Well, only one way to find out, and that's to apply, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We want guests that have a story to tell, guests with a brand, a product, or a service that can benefit my audience of listeners. If this sounds like you, go to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. I'd love to talk to you and get to know more about your story. Again, head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, now let's get into the show. Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Business Podcast, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with all of our releases. If you'd like to apply to be on the show, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Tom Logan on the line, and he is founder and CEO over at Cohley. Tom, welcome to the show.
Adam, awesome to be here with you. Thanks for having me.
All right, Tom. So I'm excited about today's episode. So we have a lot to cover. We're going to go into your process, your 4-step process. We're going to go into your partnership with TikTok. I mean, we got a lot to talk about, and you're solving some major problems for mid-level to enterprise level clients. So I think just to kick it off, tell us a little bit more about Cohley. So tell us a little bit more about why you founded it.
Yeah, that's a perfect starting point. And as we were talking about before we jumped on, I think the origin story behind the real provenance story behind a tech company is just as important as it is in, say, the car industry or the wine industry. The why behind why you do something is just as important as the how, even in tech, right? So my co-founder and I, Eric Graber, we met at a company called Pecora. We were focused on the user-generated content space, which is to say, we were helping brands locate and then acquire rights to primarily photos that normal people were taking on their behalf, right? So think, fashion brand, an individual taking a photo, tagging that brand. But the point was we're helping them find, acquire those photos, and then put them to use. And the whole point of user-generated content, at least then, was to tell like a more authentic story behind the brand, to make it a little bit more relatable, and to kind of provide social proof points, oftentimes right at the point of purchase on the actual website. So moving off of that very much informed our perspective around content, right? So in 2016, we see Pecora, the company we met at, exit, and we see the rise of the influencer space, right? Influencer marketing is becoming this huge buzzword. People meaning brands are having a ton of success, all this cloud generating sales and whatnot. What we see in the influence marketing space, because of our perspective, is we see these individuals as branded content creators. We see them as addressing nearly all of the challenges that we faced at Pecora, which is quality of content, the timing of the content, legalities. I mean, you name it, we faced them. And when we saw these influencers, again, we're like, you know what, brands have a need for more and more content, right? And today we're in an environment now where brands need more content than they've ever needed at any point in history. So rather than continue to apply sort of this antiquated model or this traditional model of creating content, which is put tons of money behind photo shoots, pay a bunch of professionals to create that perfect curated asset that would be this one-to-many marketing message. Instead, what we've created here, fast forwarding a bit, is the ability to tap into external, like third-party content creators, really just normal people, many of whom just have, sharp iPhone cameras that continue to get better every year. And we basically, have curated a large network of over 110,000 photographers, influencers, content creators, videographers, product reviewers. And basically, we help brands get the content that they need to meet their heightened content demands at much lower costs in a way that also leads to significantly better performance for them. So seeing a real shift, and it's been a lot of fun to be a part of the last 5 years.
I love that you just kind of encapsulated the whole transition from these big agency models, spending a lot of money on a photo shoot, to now paying an Instagram influencer or somebody else. Like it's a big shift. And I think
one of the major factors from my standpoint, as a content creator, and one like you're speaking of, is that whole idea of authenticity, and the idea that it now a lot of times that influencer or that person, not always, but many times, maybe they use the product, maybe they followed the brand, like all of these different things leads to a different level of authenticity that then allows them to connect to a different type of audience. And it goes back to that whole idea of the why, as you were mentioning. Can you talk a little bit more about the authenticity factor of what happens when you engage with influencers and otherwise? Because for those that are watching this that maybe are in big companies, they may not know. They may have heard it, and it may still be something that maybe their kids are into or something else, but they may not know like that it's serious business.
Yeah. Well, think about how competitive the consumer marketplace is, just as a broad concept, right? Everyone is competing for consumers' attention. Everyone is trying to say that their product is better than another product. And it's so difficult, right? We think about how many touch points a brand needs to have with an actual prospective customer before they actually convert. That person is being introduced to the brand. They're asking their friends, they're reading product reviews. And of course, throughout all of that, they're being retargeted and fed more and more content from that actual brand. But really what's incumbent on the brand there is that they're building a real authentic relationship with that individual on a personal level, right? So we talk about authenticity. Authenticity kind of goes hand in hand with personalization. Like what's authentic to you or someone else might not necessarily feel as authentic to me. So we talk about this, like the shift from the one to many marketing method to the one to one. The Mad Men, handsome John Hamm method is no longer the way that marketing works. That was like, let's get in a conference room, let's think of a genius idea, and let's launch it. Now it's all about feeding different subsets of individuals across different digital channels, different types of content, right? And it's not making any assumptions that a certain type of asset is going to perform with a certain subset of individuals. It's going in armed with tons of diverse assets from a variety of different people with a variety of different creative interpretations of the product or service, and seeing what works, and not being so attached to the content that you're putting out there and being more driven by the data that comes back. And we'll get into the whole concept of content engineering and the feedback loop in a bit, but that ties right in.
So I want to go further into, so now we've kind of laid out the evolution of content and the way it's done. We've some of the channels like influencer marketing and other things. The idea of influencers or micro influencers. So the shift from only paying Michael Jordan a big fat check to maybe splitting up that check for a lot of other people. That's all we're doing really, to a certain extent, of course. So let's get into the overall problem that you see, or opportunity, I should say. I like to use the word opportunity, not problem, that you see in the marketplace that Cohley is here to fulfill.
Sure. Yeah. So as I was saying earlier, brands need more content than they've ever needed before, and they need different types of assets, right? So you have so many different channels. You have a TikTok that's creator driven, that's native, that's primarily smartphone driven. And then, you also still have your website that you have to curate. You need new products for new photos to launch new products and whatnot. So that's critical as well. You think about all of the content you need across all of these channels. So essentially what we're doing here is helping brands generate the assets that they need proactively at lower costs, helping them build up this massive cache of assets, and then helping them activate those assets across each one of these channels and use data as their foundational sort of backbone to make ongoing decisions, right? So the challenge is really, how do I get enough content to run the sophisticated marketing program that we need to run? And the beauty of it is that we can help mid-level companies compete with the Goliaths of the world by using this content engineering strategy, right? And you've seen plenty of nimble D2C e-commerce focused brands that have picked up significant market share from behemoth incumbent players that 10, 15 years ago, this would have been laughed out of the room, right? But I think that's a key theme within marketing. It is a very quickly evolving space. It changes on a dime. And in order to, be nimble and make quick little adjustments, we have to think differently than we used to 5-10 years ago. And we've been fortunate in the sense that a lot of these developments have benefited us. But really, it's just fascinating to look at from a 30,000-foot view of how marketing has shifted.
Absolutely. I think I love the CPG space. Every time I walk into Whole Foods, I walk around and I'm looking for a new brand or something that I can look up on Instagram, because I'm just,
Crazy,
like
right?
you said, you would have never thought in a million years, go back 10, 20 years ago, that some of a small brand could be in a shelf and take, shelf space, very competitive in a Whole Foods or any store for that matter, and from an incumbent player that has these huge companies. And then you find out it's mom and pop barbecue sauce, and then you taste it and you're like, and then you feel that connection, and it's like, oh yeah, I found something new.
Well, trust me, those conglomerates in the CPG space very much see that as a real threat. So as a result, you now see those types of companies, P&G, Unilever, even Chobani, they develop these incubator programs to essentially fund future competitors, and it's almost just like a hedge to their business, right? They're hedging their bets, and if they didn't do that, then they risk complete, irrelevance, which is what everyone fears most in life. So,
how is that done? So I know you have a 4-step process. I believe you call it the feedback loop. Let's just start with the first one. So generating content.
Yep. And on top of the feedback loop, we're now calling it the content engineering process. But what the content engineering process is doing is essentially mirroring the scientific method. And the way that works specifically for Cohley is that, sure, we can generate all of these diverse, great assets from a variety of different individuals that are ready to be activated on a variety of different channels, right? But from there, that's a great starting point. But from there, content is completely valueless if it's not actually put to work and activated. So the next step after generate is actually to activate it. And through our technology, we're able to help brands, agencies, clients, whoever, take the content, activate it across digital channels. That could be TikTok, that could be their email provider, their ESP, their websites, Facebook Business Manager, SMS. We can take these assets and directly tie them into these synchronous marketing channels to really bring the results to life. To take that same methodology around testing and to apply it into each one of their digital marketing channels so that they can continuously improve performance. And that feedback loop, that content engineering process, it never stops. It's not like you reach the pinnacle and then head back down. Because once you find that winning ad, or you find that winning strategy across email, guess what? You're at risk of losing that edge. So in order to stay on top, got to continue to keep that content engineering loop going. And in order to feed that, you need more content.
So there's a lot of different people watching this, and all of the marketing directors that are watching this right now, they understood what you said. But I want to break it down a little bit further, because maybe some of the CEOs that don't have, this is their 100% focus day to day that are watching and they're running the entire company. Maybe we can walk through, and it doesn't have to be a specific a client, or you could give a client if you want, but maybe walk us through what this actually looks like. So I'm a company, I'm coming to sign up. Now it's time for me to start generating content. Walk us through those steps and what it could look like. Again, I know it's going to change from company to company, but just what it could look like.
Yeah, sure. We can take a company called Peacock Alley, which is one of my favorites. They make a variety of home-focused goods, bed sheets, things like that, pillows. Awesome company. But basically the way that they work with us is we are their content machine. So everything from product reviews that we then are able to push into their on-site product review integration, to photos that are ready for the website from professional photographers within our network. We give them the widest scope of creative assets and content, probably of any client. At least they're certainly in the top 10, 20%. Mm-hmm. So we call it the content pie, right? How do we get the largest slice of the content pie and help them out as much as possible? So with them, again, not just about generating the actual content, it's about pushing it out to the channels that need the content the most, that are so thirsty for assets and thirsty for testing. Push them out, help them understand what's working well, what's not. And then that's where the content engineering process starts to continue to perpetuate itself and continue to add more and more value. Is that, after Activate, we want to measure results. We want to understand what's working, how it's working, where it's most effective. And then from there, the inform is basically just reading the data within the actual measurement stage and taking that data and informing your next campaign. So it's constantly just making incremental improvements, constantly testing, constantly informing ongoing strategy. And that also goes back to what I was saying earlier, just around how quickly the marketing world can shift. And this is, we think, very much the best way to stay on top of that.
What kind of content it can be produced? So is it video? Is it ads? Is it like give us a feel for like types of content that are able to be produced?
Great question. We'll get into some specifics. So everything from iPhone shot photos and videos, which are great for TikTok, great for Instagram ads, things like that, to your professional level photography. It's funny that that's probably one of our favorite segments of creators, because a lot of them are, freelancers, wedding photographers. They have normal jobs, but they just have a passion for photography and they want to create original assets for brands that get used all over the place. They can do that. I mean, they could do high-level videography that's, a little bit more commercial in nature. And then the product reviews are really exciting as well, because product reviews are consulted in 90% of purchase decisions. And if you're going to launch a new product, like, it sucks to have to wait 2 months for product reviews and those peer validation proof points to come through. We can sample those products out in advance of a launch so that you can launch a product with sufficient reviews, which we know, again, are very important in the buy process.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And something like product reviews and things like this validation, or the second thing, what I like to tell people a lot of times when they think about like, do I need this? Do I not need this? I always say, what's the first thing you do when you go to buy a product?
Exactly.
Oh, you read the product review. So let me get this straight. You're the only one that figured that out.
I'll tell you what, all of my friends hate me because every time I see that they have like a new shirt or a new pair of shoes or backpack, whatever it is, the first question I'm always asking them is, what was your buyer journey on that? Where did you first hear about that brand? And they're just like, Tom, shut up. But like, I'm fascinated in that funnel and what that individual journey looked like for them.
That's amazing. So you come home, you got the spoon, right? You went to the grocery store. What was your buyer journey? Leave me alone, Tom.
Just leave me alone. I'm trying to watch reality television. Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's go into and some of the testing side of things, because measuring and testing, I mean, it goes hand in hand with quantity, and we'll get into that. But I want to start with that measuring and testing part, because I find that that's usually something that many brands lack on. They spend a lot of time on the creative side, and maybe it could be just because they don't have the tools, the resources. Maybe they think it's too difficult, or maybe they just don't understand what's possible in testing nowadays. But all those, I feel like, lead to a lot of wasted ad dollars or spend. Can you tell us a little bit more about the testing side of the process?
Sure. Well, let's start by visiting sort of the traditional method for a go-to-market launch for a new product. So, company A consults agencies 1, 2, and 3, solicits some creative concepts for the launch. Hey, this is the brilliant concept we've dreamt up. How does this sound? Okay, great. Then brand decides, and this is completely at their own volition, not driven by data, decides which one they like most. They then will sit down and do a focus group in a conference room in Modesto, California, or wherever the hell they do these things, and gather input from, a small group of individuals. And then from there, once they've, made some last minute tweaks, refinements, whatever, they now go to market with a multi-million-dollar ad strategy. Okay. So that's the traditional way, and, glorified in Mad Men. Again, I like to use that example because it's just one that a lot of people tend to know. But in today's world, and what we're seeing is the brands that are winning are the ones that are more nimble and are more willing to test, right? So instead of doing that, spending bajillions of dollars on traditional agencies, expensive photo shoots, traditional minded creative directors that don't incorporate an ounce of data, instead of doing that, sure, you have your brand guidelines, you have a desired target market. But if you're able to bring lots and lots of creative interpretations from a variety of different people, creating a variety of different assets, if you're able to develop that library, that cache of content, you're then able to run so many more tests with those target markets than the individual who's taking that focus group data and just pushing it out to market. So we can run, instead, in a product launch, we can run a variety of small tests, thousands and thousands, and understand, okay, this is what's working. Okay, by the way, maybe our target market is slightly different. Maybe it's a slightly younger demographic. Okay, no worries at all. We can work with that. Great. So you're taking all of this information, so much more information than what that traditional process yielded, right? You're taking all of these inputs, you're distilling them down to very simple concepts. Great. A is better than B. Classic A/B test, right? And then you're going to market with that. And sure, you can still pump millions of dollars into ad campaigns. That's a good thing. But do that with the full backing and confidence that a sophisticated testing strategy has actually created for you, right? So you're putting your company, your brand, yourself in such a more powerful position by being able to test, and test different types of assets. And, particularly as we move into a world where consumers demand diversity, inclusivity from brands as well, let's make sure that we're able to service that. And that's been something that's been critical for us on the creator side, is let's make sure that we can meet brands where they want to go. And this is going to be a good thing for them. It's going to be a good thing for everyone involved.
And one of the things that I think is really interesting on the testing side of things is sometimes brands discover new markets and new niches and new audiences that they didn't even know they had.
Exactly, right? I mean, there's a story of Hidden Valley Ranch doing this big product review campaign, and their initial goal was not to learn a ton about any new segments. It was just to get product reviews. But what they learned from some of those reviews were like, hey, here we have these moms saying that Hidden Valley Ranch is the only way that we can get our kids to eat their vegetables. That wasn't the initial target, but like, what a great message. And then you can take that learning and incorporate it into a new campaign. And, it's what a great way to think about expanding into a new demographic, a new target market, and continue to build personalized messaging within those target markets. I mean, what an incredible learning that is. I'm glad you brought that up.
So let's talk about that age-old question here, that whole quantity, like how much is enough, how much is too much, like that whole thing. Because one of the things that I like about Cohley is, to me, it already solves the other age-old question, which is it quantity over quality? Because you can have both with Cohley. So that one's off the table. We already know that one's off the table, because you already won if you're using Cohley with that one, because you can do both. But let's talk about quantity and what that looks like that age-old question. They're like, how much is too much? How much is enough? And I know that's a loaded question, but I want your input on it.
Yeah. In general, would say that more testing equals better results, right? So if we're looking at Facebook advertising, for example, conservatively, you're going to run a lot of ads that aren't going to unseat your king of the hill winner in a specific category with a specific product. But 5% of the creative assets that you push out will actually take that crown. So once you find a winner that's performing even better, what happens to your advertising spend? It goes further, right? You're paying less per click. You're paying a lower CPM, and you're able to acquire more customers, because Facebook is essentially rewarding you for testing different content and for feeding content to consumers who want to consume that content versus content that's forced and it's kind of just inconvenient, right? And all of our listeners will understand what we mean by that. You're scrolling through Instagram, Facebook, wherever. Sometimes you see content that's like, get out of my face, this is not relevant. And sometimes you see what we call thumb stopping content, which is like, whoa, what's this? This is interesting. Or like, oh, hey, I heard about that brand from one of my friends. Like, let me check it out. Or like, hey, it's almost, we're heading into winter in New York. I probably do need a new jacket, something like that. So you can hit them with timely ads as well. But hey, I could go off on that all day, but generally think that more content is good. Like one example, and then we'll move on from there. But just to put some tangible numbers behind it, Roan Activewear, one of our men's activewear companies, awesome company, doing great things. Prior to working with us, they were running right around 10 to 15 ad tests on Facebook per week. Now, as a result of having significantly more content to work with, they're now running over 50 ad tests a day. And not unsurprisingly, their return on ad spend is up 3 to 4x. So more testing, generally a good thing. That doesn't mean that you don't have brand parameters, but what we're advocates of is being open-minded and letting data help to dictate content decisions, right? I think Jim Collins had had what he called back in the day, this big, hairy, audacious goal, right? You're right, BHAG. I had a feeling you would know what I was talking about. And, Bill Gates' BHAG 25 years ago was that everyone would own a computer. Like voila on that. What our BHAG is, we talk about all the time, is that 10 years from now, there won't be one content decision that a brand makes that isn't heavily informed by data. Right now, it's not the case. Not even really close, to be honest. But with all of the data that's out there, with all of this content right at people's fingertips through services like ours, parallel ones, whatever, that's going to become a reality, and it's going to be really exciting.
So is this already trademarked or what, Tom? Creating thumb-stopping content with Cohley.
I did not make it up. I wish I could take credit for it.
So good.
But yeah, it's good, right? And you can relate to that. Just scroll through your feed.
That might be my BHAG now. You just created it for me. Thank you.
Do it. Of course.
Oh, that's awesome. So I have to ask, so what's next actually, let's go into, your TikTok partnership.
TikTok?
This is huge. When I saw that, because what you're doing for businesses overall is you're helping them create end-to-end strategies, but TikTok, as of this recording in 2020, one of the hottest, fastest growing platforms on social media. Tell us a little bit more about this and how this came about.
Yeah, you know what? I feel so fortunate as a business leader to be a part of their meteoric rise and what they've done and been through this year. It's been so exciting to be a small part of it. So a couple months ago, after a variety of conversations and courting from mostly our end, but it was fairly mutual, they finally settled on 5 creative development partners. And the entire point of this creative development partnership was that they have a lot of advertisers who are obviously keen to do a lot of testing and find success on TikTok. But what they quickly realize is that if brands brought, say, just their stock Instagram strategy or their standard video content strategy to TikTok and expected that to succeed, it was falling flat, right? And TikTok users are very passionate individuals who have a particular view of how the platform should function. It should be authentic, organic, natural feeling. So if you go in there with highly produced content, that TikTok community is a discerning one. They'll kick you out pretty quickly from whence you came. So with that, it's been so exciting for us. So basically what we're helping a lot of TikTok advertisers do is generate creator-driven assets that are TikTok native that they can incorporate directly into their ad strategy and also their organic strategy on TikTok as well. So they can cultivate that relationship with their followers. And also you just get a read on what's working, what's resonating, what's not, and incorporate that into their general content engineering flow as well. So, that partnership is so much fun for us too, just kind of going back to our origin story. Early on, 2016, we were very focused on doing a lot with user-generated video. And guess what? We were way too early on it. People didn't answer our emails. There was very little interest, and we quickly had to realize, okay, like we're not quite there yet. But what TikTok is doing is brands that 5 years ago wouldn't have given us the time of day are now much more open to the idea of incorporating content that's shot by real people on smartphones in a way that's creative, fun, and a little looser, shall we say, than traditional forms of media or traditional platforms. But we see that as a good thing, and we see that as another opportunity for brands to connect with consumers in a way that's a little more fun and a little more lighthearted. And I think through 2020, there's a reason why that's been appealing for people.
Oh, I have to agree. Like the TikTok community, they want a native experience. They want it to feel like TikTok. Like if you're doing a, highly polished, Instagram, like this, that, like you're right. I could see that. Like when I've seen that, it's like, oh, this is not like, yeah, it feels weird. It's like, I'm almost like I'm on the wrong platform. Like, how'd this get here? What are they doing here? They're a little bit off.
Exactly. And when we talk to the TikTok team, they're still trying to figure out what performs best from a content standpoint. They know it's creator driven, but they've asked us like, hey, what do you see going viral for your clients? How can we better understand this? And, that algorithm is extremely powerful. But what we know is that really the only discernible difference between top advertisers across social platforms is that they test 11 times more content than the mean, right? That is the only discernible difference that we can actually find. So as a result of that, back to our very simple premise, should be testing more, follow that content engineering path. And in order to do that, find ways to get creative to generate the types of assets that are going to feed that content monster.
So you have a unique vantage point, being one of those platforms. What kind of brands or niches, just in general, have you seen have some success, or is it a brand agnostic platform in general? I know we're early on, so I'm not holding you on the line on this one, but just from your vantage point, what you've seen so far.
Yeah, that's a great question. So early on, particularly like first couple of years, it was the early adopter type of direct-to-consumer brands, predominantly e-commerce, who are more of the disruptors, more willing to think about things through a traditional, through a new age lens versus tied to any traditional methods. Now, particularly through 2020, where it's kind of been forced on a variety of brands because they've needed ways to generate content that's been safe, you see more traditional brands starting to open up their willingness to test content from outside sources. And sure, there's still a little bit of trepidation and concern around quality and whatnot, but like we're able to address those because we're able to provide parameters by which the content is created, and they're able to select which creative individuals they incorporate into their actual Cohley campaigns. So we're starting to see more traditional minded brands, even like a luxury brand like a Bulgari, who are now incorporating Cohley content. I just learned how to pronounce that word officially, so I'm trying to make sure I honor that. I always call them Bulgari.
I'm in.
I'm working on it. Yeah. Got to respect the pronunciation. But anyway, yeah, to your point, and I'm glad you asked this question, we are seeing more and more brands start to become comfortable with the concept of incorporating external assets into their sort of core content strategies as a company.
Yeah, I think it's like going forward, I like how you said, within 10 years, your BHAG is, in terms of seeing people not doing ads or anything like that, or creating content, I should say, without testing. I would be shocked if during that same time span, like other brands aren't using, and you've seen even some of the big companies use these like micro influencer campaigns, or you've seen like some smaller companies, create these amazing things and then get scooped up by these big companies, right? Or purchased or acquired. So you see it happen all the time. So I'd be shocked if there weren't more companies, even in more traditional industries. When I even look at our company, so we're not huge. We're still a smaller media outlet, but when I look at, compared to like a Forbes, right? But when I look at something like that, and I think about some of the banks or some of the like large brands that have sponsored us and done business with us, I'm like, you go back like, 10, 15, 20 years to have Bank of America work working with a small media company like ours, it probably wasn't going to happen. But now, in order to reach different audiences and different, you know, in an authentic way and tell your story in a certain type of way, like this is the way it's done. And for me, just for the creator community, which we haven't talked about much, and I do want to go into a little bit, like it's just amazing because it allows all these people these outlets and these opportunities to be able to give back and to participate in commerce other than maybe some of the traditional ways. Can you talk about what Cohley has meant from the creator side of things? I think that's an interesting story too.
Yeah, I mean, we are truly nothing without our creator base, and we are eternally grateful for these individuals, right? And sure, of course, they're fairly compensated and have a variety of opportunities to grow, but their professionalism and their ability to work hand in hand with brands and create assets that have immense value for them, and it's really cool to see, right? And you also see it's fun to watch creators. So we incorporate a variety of like up and comers. We call them our Nemos because we have the fish theme, and you know, Nemo's small fish. You get it. But like we're able to bring those people in when they're very, very micro, just a few thousand followers, and we're able to see them kind of find their voice or find their niche and start working with different types of brands and think about the value that they're not only bringing brands, but to their own communities, right? What value are they providing? Is it fitness tips? Is it nutrition? Are they just beautiful and that brightens up people's day? Whatever. It doesn't matter what it is, but it's fun to see people develop that voice for themselves and create better and better content. That has so much value, right? And I'm just amazed at what people are able to do, oftentimes just with smartphones. Like the types of content. I mean, TikTok's a good example. I mean, this stuff is just so cool. They're so creative. And a lot of times brands, I mean, that's such an advantage for us because brands, again, might have some trepidation in terms of like incorporating outside individuals that aren't directly overseen by their marketing or PR team, but like they get some of these assets back from these creators within our network, and their reaction is just like, oh my God, this is so cool. I never thought about it this way. Or how did they even think about that? Or how do they do we got to use this. This is amazing. And that's just such a great reaction. It makes me just like really proud of our creator group and that entire population of people who've, you know, actively participated and done such a great job with their Cohley projects.
Man, I love that you say that. And one of the things that I try to tell people sometimes on the creator side of things, and not claiming I have this skill on TikTok, by the way, I have like one video up there and it's terrible. But like planning out that 15-second video, like and shooting it and doing all that stuff, I mean, that could take 8 hours depending on the creator. Like just the frame, the amount it takes, and I've seen it. Like I've seen some of the beauty creators and things that I know and things that they do. And I'm like, they're like very serious about their content. There's a reason why their content is good as it is. Of course, you didn't think about it because that's all they're thinking about it. That's like their main focus. It's not one part of all these other things. It's like, it's a very serious thing. And the reason is because they're also like their name's on the line for their audience. So they not only take your brand serious, but they take their followers and their audience extremely serious. So Absolutely. They take it just as serious as you take your brand and your product. That's how serious they take each and every one of those followers for these creators. So it's a really intimate relationship that's, in my opinion, created across creator, brand, and really just the user experience overall.
And you've seen how delicate that relationship can be, because if you see an influencer who's rising in cloud and maybe flying a little bit too close to the sun, and you know she or he just starts to do a paid post for anything that their agent throws at them, guess what? They're going to start losing some of that trust and connection with their audience. And you know, as a result, that person will be less desirable to work with. So it's this weird like meritocracy almost that's based on connection and originality and creativity and value to followers and of course to brands as well. So it's crazy to see how that's developed.
So Tom, we're heading into end of 2020 right now as this is being recorded, going into 2021. I mean, what's next for you and Cohley?
Yeah. We have such an exciting year ahead of us. And I think one thing that really excites me more than anything is just the talent that we have on board now. We just have like such incredibly smart individuals. I always joke about this, but like the day that I realized that I could hire people that are smarter than me, my life changed. Like I changed as a CEO for sure. Because there's no rule against it. It's amazing. And now we have plenty of people that fall into that category. So I'm excited about what like the compounding effect of our people is going to have, and what we're going to be able to create together. And one thing we're really excited about is being able to take our content and continue to seamlessly place it into email providers, into ads platforms, into SMS, and be able to, again, take the content that's produced and get it out to the right places into testing methodologies that are going to, again, help brands win. And that's what's really exciting for us. It's not just the content, it's seeing them deploy it, learn from it, and adjust accordingly to continue to pick up incremental market share. And selfishly, like, it's just so much fun to see our clients do well. It's so much fun to watch them grow and pick up new segments or successfully launch new products. Even, again, just to have a small part in that journey is like incredibly satisfying for us.
Oh man, that is exciting.
Yeah.
So speaking of, if there's some people watching this right now that are definitely going to want to follow up and learn more about Cohley. So final question, a two-part question. So first off, what are the right types of companies, niches, or size of company, otherwise, that are typically a good fit to work with Cohley? Number one, and number two, what's the best way for them to connect with you and your team?
Yeah. The types of companies that we're able to add value for has certainly grown, well beyond that D2C e-commerce focused type of brand. So really any brand that needs content and is running ads, is looking to grow, we can help them for sure. We can add value. So excited to get into more use cases and to continue to think about content more broadly. And those will be fun conversations as we go. So in terms of contacting us, contact me directly, tom@cohley.com. That's Tom at COHLEY.com. And we'll have a conversation.
Fantastic. Well, Tom, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your vision and your why of why you started Cohley, and also why, how you're helping all of these businesses out there succeed. So I think it's awesome. It's a great story. And also providing that, let's not forget the creators who you're providing opportunity for, and just creating win-win scenarios. So, and that outlet. So it's just an amazing thing that you're doing over there for our creators also. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you're a first-time viewer or listener, definitely hit that subscribe button. We love to have you come back and watch some more thumb-stopping episodes. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And Tom, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks, Adam. You're such a pro. Thanks for having me.